Hi, Candy from Blessed Life. And I woke up this morning with a topic on my mind and on my heart. And I started praying and talking to God about it and whether I should talk about it and make a video or is this just a lesson for me. And I really and truly believe that it's a video that I should make. And it's the importance of Christians in their communities, in politics, in life. We are to be the light on the hill. We are to be the shining light that shows Jesus' love and also to influence the world, influence people to come to know Christ. And we can't do that if we're always buttoning up and being afraid to speak. And it's really, really important because I know we're having a major election in Colombia for the heart, of Colombia, for the people of Colombia. And if the wrong guy wins, it's going to be a disaster for this country. And my husband has been very outspoken and he's influenced people because basically there are a lot of people who they kind of just vote whatever party they're aligned with, whether it's the Conservative Party or the Liberal Party. And this year they had this guy show up out of nowhere. He's kind of a little bit like Trump that way, except that he is not associated with any party. He started his own party. He said, I'm not going to be bought. I'm not going to be owned by anybody. And he really, really hurt the conservative candidate who was a woman. But she was going way left. She chose a homosexual to be her vice president. She has been talking to some of the worst criminal liberals in this country and trying to join hands with them. But we knew a lot of conservatives who were like, no, I have to vote Uribe's party, which is the Conservative Party. And we were like, no, pay attention to what she's saying. Pay attention to what she's doing. You can't vote for her because she's sold out. Even if you look at the people that are involved in her party and involved in trying to help her get elected. And my husband, he convinced one of our neighbors one time, and because he was like going back and forth and back and forth. And then him and the neighbor, and we went to another friend's, and the other friend has always been very, very, very active in politics. He's been very active in assisting the Uribe Conservative Party, and they talked to him. We went over to their house for dinner, and this topic came up, and Jorge and the friends started telling him, no, you have to pay attention to what Paloma's saying. You have to pay attention to what Paloma's doing. And after that, Jorge thought that the other friend, he thought that he actually was like, blew him off and wasn't going to talk to him anymore because we weren't voting, or Jorge wasn't going to vote for Paloma. And then one day in church, he came up and he said, you're right. I'm voting El Tigre. And from that point on, he is very influential, and he was able to get a lot of people on board and to see the problems with the female that was running. And on the other side, that person's straight out of hell. That person that's running is really, really, really bad. And so we've been really, really working to just educate people, to talk to people, to talk to even our liberal friends. And we got a message this morning from one of our total liberal communist, and he's like, I'm voting El Tigre. And my husband was like, yes. So it is, you can have an impact for the good, and how it's going to impact this country is going to be for the good as long as this other candidate wins, and the candidate El Tigre wins. And even in America, American Christians have dropped the ball. If you look at some of the policies that we have, if you look at the fact that we have hundreds of thousands of women getting abortions every year, it's because we dropped the ball. We didn't want to offend anybody. We didn't want to, say something that could hurt somebody. And the fact is, if you look in the Bible, there's nowhere in the Bible that says don't get political. Paul called on his Roman citizenship as his right to be tried in Rome and to have his hearings in Rome, not under the government that was actually accusing him. Thank God that he did that, because that government probably would have instantly killed him and we wouldn't have the epistles, right? He would have gone to heaven. He would have been happy. He would have been much better off for him, because he wouldn't have been sitting in a Roman jail. But at the same time, he used the political system that existed to continue to be able to write and to talk to people and to preach and to teach. And that was important. Moses, what if Moses had said, sorry, God, I can't get involved. That's politics. He's the Pharaoh. He has the right. He is the king. Daniel could have told God, okay, God, right now I can't pray because it's a time of not being able to pray to anybody but the king, and so sorry, but I can't get political. I can't make a statement. No, he made a statement. He threw open his windows so that everybody could see him praying to God. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, same thing. They refused. Deborah was a judge. Samson was a judge. David was made a king. These people were political, and they made political decisions. So to say that people of God cannot be political, that they cannot be leaders, that they cannot make influence to people, is totally wrong. We have a pastor in where we used to live in Popayan, and he said, if you're a Patrista, which is the liberal communist people, he said, if you're a Patrista, you don't belong in church. And it's true, they don't belong in church, because they really and truly are not. They're fighting against every Christian value that exists, these leaders. And so it's really, really important that we make a stand, that we make a decision, and we are talking to people about what's going on in the world. Even, what's going on in Africa with the Christians that are being slain constantly. We need to be making our voices known, because we think, oh, well, we can't make a difference. But there are people that are making a difference, and you can influence people that can make a difference. Just like my husband, just talking to this one friend who's very powerful and influential in this area in politics. Jorge only talked to 2 people, but our friend, he's already probably talked to 100 and hundreds of people to influence them. So you can make a difference. You can make a difference in little things. You can make a difference in a lot of different ways. But as long as we're here on earth, we have generations coming up that this world is coming against in such strong ways. And as Christians, we have to stand up for the generations that are coming behind us, so that they aren't evilly influenced to believe these things. I was raised a Christian, but I was also raised in the public school system. I believe that a woman had a right to abortion. I remember walking out of a church because a pastor was preaching against abortion. And I remember the day that I realized how evil abortion was and how crazy they'd gone to even allow women in their 8th month to have abortions, and what a partial birth abortion was. I remember being told what it was, and like, no, that's not what they do. You're just lying. This is just a Christian lie. I heard the Silent Scream video, or I saw the Silent Scream video when I was a teenager, and so this is just, Christians making lies to hurt women and keep women from being able to have choices and have to have babies when they're raped and stuff. But I went home and I looked up what a partial birth abortion was, and I had to go back and apologize to that lady. And I thank God every day that she actually spoke up and told me and didn't back down when I was like, no, you're wrong. No, she kept and stood her ground. And I thank God for her. I thank God that she opened my eyes to the evilness of partial birth abortion. So you can make a difference, and you have to make a difference now, because like I said, we've got generations coming up. We don't know when Jesus is coming. I personally believe it's any day now, pretty soon. But at the same time, it still could be another 100 years. And for these generations coming up, we want to make an impact. We want to leave them with at least the concepts of good morals and Christian morals, and understand the difference and understand the world and understand that there is an evil world, an evil influence, an evil satanic spirit that is in this world right now, going around and destroying people and devouring people and keeping them from getting to know God. And we have to do everything for them to be able to know God. And if there's no absolutes, if there's no truth, if there's no right against a wrong, how, without moral absolutes, you have no morality. It's not like my morality versus moral absolutes. No, it's either there are moral absolutes, thou shalt not kill, including babies that are unborn, or there's no morality. And not just killing unborn babies, but killing Christians because you're a Muslim and they're Christian is okay. And so we have to really, really open our eyes and open our hearts and open our minds and see that truth is truth. And we have to not worry about who we offend. I'd already made up my mind. I had this whole message in my head, and something happened. My husband went in a prayer group. He posted, and it's not anything like against Cepeda, who is the guy that's the liberal and the communist. It was absolutely nothing against him. It was just what El Tigre said he wants to do. He wants to, whatever, he wants this to be passed, and this is how he's going to do it. And he wants to help education. He wants to, help the structure of Colombia, and he wants to build the economy of Colombia. He wants to get more and more foreign investments in companies that have lots of money to come to Colombia, because Colombia is a really beautiful country with lots and lots of natural resources, lots of resources as far as human resources that can create jobs. It was nothing like anything, and the leader of that prayer group told my husband that was inappropriate and it could offend people and he better take it down right now, and blah, blah, blah. And my husband's like, you can't say anything to him. And it's a good thing. But he's totally in the wrong, because if that offends somebody, the Bible also tells us don't get offended easily, for one thing. But the only person it's going to offend is somebody who is either a communist and wants Cepeda, or is somebody like him who is mad because he actually argued with Jorge over voting for Paloma versus El Tigre, and he's jealous of Jorge anyway. He can't deal that Jorge can preach better than him, teach better than him, and is more popular than him. So he can't deal with any of that anyway, and so it's just his way. But he's not protecting anybody that would be offended, because Jorge actually said the same thing to pretty much everybody in the prayer group, and they all rang back, oh, this is so great. Yes, we're voting, because there's a runoff election in less than 3 weeks now. Or no, Sunday it will be the first week, so then we'll have 2 more weeks. And so I just want to encourage you as a Christian, whatever country you're in. You could be in Europe, you could be in Africa, you could be where, China. Be careful in China. But anywhere you are, you can make a difference. You can influence people. You can show people how to stand up. David stood up to Goliath. And, we always say, oh, that was, back in the olden days and blah, 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 blah. But there are Goliaths in this world. Goliath was a bully. And the thing is, now, unlike biblical times where everybody either was inherited their power and their positions of leadership, or they killed people to get their leadership positions, pretty much those were the 2 ways, right? Because there was no voting. But right now we have voting. Your vote is powerful. And so you need to pray and vote wisely, even if you're in the U.S. and these elections that are happening, like the election in LA for mayor. It's important. It's going to impact people's lives. And Spencer Pratt, I sincerely doubt he's a Christian. But we know the other one isn't the mayor that's the current mayor. And you have to vote, and you have to vote wisely. You have to vote with good conscience. You have to vote and really look at what the people are doing, and vote for the person that God would choose, and or suffer the consequences. The people of Israel were very happy sometimes with really, really bad kings, and they got led away to captivity again after being freed from it. So you have to choose wisely, act wisely, and think wisely about things. And if your political positions don't line up with what the Bible says, then your political positions are wrong. Period. End of sentence. You can't justify it. And that is something else. That's another thing you have to look at. Are your political opinions lining up biblically? So that's something else to think about. But be involved. Make a stand for the future generations, so that, when the end times come, they know right from wrong. They know right absolutes, not just this, your truth versus my truth. It doesn't work that way. I remember the first time, I'm going off on tangent now, but I remember the first time I heard Oprah Winfrey on a show saying, well, that's your truth, but somebody else's truth is this, and it was when she was being challenged that Jesus was the only way to God, and she said, well, that's your truth, and somebody else's truth is this or that or this, and it was like, Oprah, there's only one truth. Truth is truth. This cup is pink. Now you may name it a certain shade of pink and say it's light pink, or it's blush pink, or it's, but it's pink. My shirt is pink, okay? Now, unless you're colorblind, and then maybe my shirt is gray. I don't know. Okay, that would be an exception to the rule of truth. But there is only one truth, and that is Jesus is the way, the truth, and the light. No one comes to the Father but through Jesus. No other religion is equal to Christianity in that way. And if it offends somebody, too bad, so sad. Because maybe their offense will lead them on to look for the truth. And so we have to say the truth. We have to say it in love. We have to say, I'm very blunt, so maybe my way of saying the truth is not as loving as some other people. But we have to say the truth. We have to stand for the truth. And we always have to support other people who are working towards Christian goals. And if that offends somebody, it offends them. I wouldn't worry about that. But anyways, God bless you. If you like this or any of my husband's videos that he's doing in both Spanish and English, or anything else that we say and do, please like, subscribe, let your friends know, talk about it. Have a beautiful, blessed day. Bye-bye.